Basic Video Editing Part A. This video shows how to edit your video recordings using Cyberlink Powerdirector Video Editor. Powerdirector has a very large number of features. I'll discuss the features I use frequently, and I've included several tips to make editing easier. Consult online tutorials or Powerdirector help for more details. The basic editing videos are given in two parts, A and B. These two parts will show how to combine clips from different videos, remove a section of a video, or move sections around within a video, and will also include tips to make editing easier. I'll begin by showing you some initial settings I recommend for Powerdirector. You are watching a Tom's Tech Notes video. If you like this video, please wait until you are finished watching it, then click my name, Thomas Wallace, to visit my channel page. A welcome video will play to describe my other videos. To change the settings, click the gear wheel on the top line. And the settings we want to change are under the File menu. And what I suggest you do, ignore the import folder. You're going to normally bring files into Cyberlink by just dragging them in from wherever they are on the computer, dragging them onto the window for Cyberlink. So we don't need to specify an input folder. For the export folder, you'll find the files easier if you just put them all on the desktop. So set the export folder here to the address of your desktop. And you can do that by browsing and just find desktop and select it and change it to that. I've already done that, so I don't have to do it again. Desktop. My username is user10, so yours will be different. You're going to want to leave the output file name set to produce if it's not already, so that each time you edit another file, you won't have to change this setting. They'll all be called produce, and you'll just rename them on your desktop to whatever file name you need. And I'll show you how to do that later. If you've made any changes to your settings, you're going to want to click OK. I didn't make any, so I'll click Cancel. Here's another change you should probably make. Remember, you click the gear wheel. This change is in the editing part of the preferences. Duration of the image files. Powerdirector has a very short duration for image files. If you drag a photo into Powerdirector and down onto the timeline, because you're going to insert it in a video, it will only be on the screen for a few seconds. Typically, when you drag a photo in, you want room to narrate for a lot more than a few seconds. So I have changed the duration, and you can do the same by clicking this box here and changing it to however many seconds you want a photo to spread across your timeline when you insert it in your video. So in other words, with this setting, whenever I insert a photo, it'll be shown for 50 seconds, and that'll give me 50 seconds of time to put a narration in there. It's much easier to chop off a photo that's displayed too long than it is to stretch a photo that's displayed for too short a period of time. So once you've made a change to this editing part of the preferences, go ahead and click OK to save the change. I haven't made any changes this time around, so I'll click Cancel. To change the aspect ratio, another useful setting, let's click the gear wheel and open the project page. You can automatically load the last project when Powerdirector opens by checking that box. You can also automatically load sample clips when it opens. I don't usually do that, but even if this box is checked and you open Powerdirector by dragging a file onto the Powerdirector icon, which is the way I usually open Powerdirector, when you do that, it does not load the sample clips. It only loads the files you dragged onto the icon to open Powerdirector. This is an extremely useful option. Auto-save the project every designated interval here, and I have it presently set to 5 minutes. And here's where it's saved, and I'll give you the whole address in a second. There's several ways you can lose your project. You can close Powerdirector without producing the video or saving the project. You can make a catastrophic editing error and then hit another key before you realize it, so it's then too late to recover with a Control-Z. Or power fails and you very stupidly do not have your computer plugged into a UPS. I strongly recommend everybody using a computer plug it into a UPS, except of course for a laptop computer that's running on battery. You can recover from any of those losses by opening the latest saved copy of your project. And those are located, I'll give you the rest of this address because it's cut off. /Powerdirector /15.0, which is my version number, /cache, CACHE, /autosave, /. That's the folder. The files are in there and their names have the date and time embedded in the file names, plus you can use the properties of the file that specify when the file was created or modified to determine which one is the latest. Open the latest one, and if I open my latest one, I can only lose 5 minutes of editing before that one was since that one was made if I do something stupid. And I just did. I closed the editor and forgot to produce it. Or to verify where it's set, you're going to click the Edit command at the top and select Aspect Ratio, and then you're going to click either one of these to change it. But I suggest you use 16:9. That's the ratio of the width to the height of your videos. That is compatible with YouTube. If you don't have it 16:9, YouTube will put black bars around your picture to make it come out 16:9. We need to open Powerdirector to edit a file. So there's several ways to open it in Windows. And I'm going to start Powerdirector with this file by dragging that file onto the icon for Powerdirector. Now Powerdirector will start and will load that file. When CyberLink opens, either from double-clicking its icon or dragging another file onto its icon, it opens to fill the desktop full screen. To drag other files you want to edit onto the Powerdirector window, you need to reduce its size. The way to do that is to click this symbol, the second from the right corner, then drag the title bar down. Locate other files you want to edit, drag them into the upper left quarter of the CyberLink window. When you're finished dragging all the files in you want to edit, double-click the title bar to restore it to full screen. Now to start your edit, you drag the file you want to edit down to this part of the screen called the timeline and to the left end. Powerdirector will then set up to edit that file. Before describing the editing steps, let's go over some of the basics of the window of Powerdirector, and let's include some tips to help your editing. To make it easier to position the editing point in the video, you can drag the circle at the bottom of the window, left corner, to expand the timeline. Drag it to the plus direction to expand it. Drag it to the negative direction to compress it. You will notice that the audio track display sometimes shows and sometimes doesn't, and sometimes you have to play around with extra splits and whatnot to get it to show up again. But notice if I expand it, things are much further apart. It's much easier to position as you adjust where you are in the video. It's much easier to position where you are with respect to the sound you're trying to insert in front of some sound that's already there, or to identify a section that you're trying to delete. Much easier to do that if you expand it. But you will notice that when you expand it, sometimes the display is slightly out of sync with the actual sound. So you need to get used to that and compensate for it as you edit. But it does make it easier to position it, especially if you're trying to take out a little tiny section where you gasped or snorted or whatever you did, or maybe you said, things like that. If you expand the display, it's much easier to take those things out. The lower boundary of the upper half of the display can be dragged down to enlarge the preview window. If necessary, you can also drag the left edge of the preview window. Now, especially when you've dragged that down, you may lose some of the lines here. If you do, that part of the display is scrollable, vertically scrollable on the right edge of the screen. That's especially important if you've added more tracks, because you can edit tracks separately and then combine them into one. Sometimes that's a convenient way to combine some videos. And the voiceover feature that we'll describe later, when you record using that feature, that sound will appear here. If you've added tracks, that may be off the screen and you'll have to scroll to find it. As I said, we will discuss that voiceover feature later. Now, to add another track, it comes with setup for 2 tracks. There's the video portion, the audio portion, the video portion, audio portion for 2 tracks. If you want to add an additional track, just right-click that area on your window. Make sure that you're showing an arrow. And then click Add Tracks if you want to add tracks. If you wanted to remove a track, you would right-click on that track, and then you would have a Remove This Track. Before editing, I recommend a change to make editing easier. Notice that the file name overlaps the audio track. That makes it difficult to see the audio track when editing. You can make the file name disappear from the timeline using the alias feature. I'm going to show you an example of the alias feature using 3 different videos. I've started Powerdirector with 3 different videos, and now I'll show you how to use the alias feature to prevent the file names from overlapping the audio tracks in the videos. So I'll bring one of the videos down. Notice when it appears, the audio track will be here and the file name overlaps it. That makes it hard to position when you're doing critical editing. So what I suggest you do, since we're editing 3 different videos, let's use the alias feature to call this number 1, this number 2, and this number 3, so we can tell the clips apart in the timeline. So we right-click the clip in the timeline, select Change Alias, and now call that number 1. You can actually set it to blank, but then you wouldn't have any way to identify the clip in the timeline. So now there's a number 1 here, and you can still see the timeline. Since I recently discovered the alias feature, the remaining editing videos don't use this feature. But I urge you to always use alias when you edit videos. It makes positioning the video for editing much easier. The next video, Basic Video Editing Part B, will finish the description of the basic editing steps with Powerdirector. Thanks for watching my video. If you like this video, please click my name, Thomas Wallace, to visit my channel page to watch my other videos.